This is my 2020 Land Rover Defender, and I'm selling it. In fact, it's for sale right now, being auctioned live on Cars and Bids with no reserve. This has been my daily driver, my everyday car for the last 2.5 years, a little bit more. And today I'm going to explain why I'm selling it, I'm going to show you around it, and I'm going to sum up my ownership experience with the new Defender. Alright, I'm going to start this video with a quick explanation of why I'm selling my new Defender, which might be a surprise to some of the people who watch this channel because I was so eager to get this car and so excited when I bought it 2.5 years ago, and now it's going away. Once I've explained my reasons for selling, I'm going to show you around my new Defender and point out its flaws in case you might be interested in buying it, and then I will drive it and kind of sum up my ownership experience with this car over the last 2.5 years. So let's start with why I'm selling. And to do that, I want to go back to, well, why I bought it in the first place. As you know, if you're a regular viewer of my channel, I have kind of a history with Land Rover. I've had a few. I had a 2006 Range Rover as a daily driver for several years, bought that from CarMax with the famous CarMax warranty. The warranty cost me like $3,900, and then it paid out like $25,000 in claims over the time I owned the vehicle, which was ridiculous and wonderful. I also own a 1997 Defender, so the old school original Defender, if you will. And so when Land Rover announced that they were coming out with a brand new Defender, I figured, that's me, I gotta get one. And so I got one. In fact, I put in an order for my new Defender pretty much as soon as you possibly could. Basically, right when the configurator went online, I placed my order through my Land Rover dealership, which was Hohen Land Rover here in Carlsbad in the San Diego area. That was like mid to late 2019, and at the time they said it would be out in the spring of 2020. Of course, that's not exactly what happened. The COVID pandemic delayed all production, and these didn't actually go on sale until the summer of 2020. Mine was delivered at the very beginning of November 2020, and I was thrilled. It was a long wait, I think over a year from when I placed the order to when I got the car, but I was so excited to have my new Defender to complement my old Defender, and I was insistent that I would keep it for years, and I even bought an extended warranty that lasted up to 100,000 miles. Now, one of the cool things about this car is that because I actually ordered it, I chose everything about the car. I had never ordered a car before. In fact, I had never even owned a new car before this one. And so that was a pretty cool component to getting the new Defender. Plus, because this car was brand new, it was so cool. As you might imagine, based on my clothing, I'm not usually the cool guy, but for a while driving this around, people would come up to me and stop me and say, "Whoa, it's the new Defender, what do you think?" And that was kind of neat. It was like celebrity status driving this car for the first year or so. The other cool thing about the new Defender was that it seemed like it perfectly fit my lifestyle. I love off-roading, and I like to off-road as much as possible, at least a few times a year out in the desert or basically anywhere I can. But I also needed a nice, comfortable daily driver car to drive all around Southern California and beyond in order to film my YouTube videos. And so this seemed like a fantastic combination of a serious off-roader, but also a smooth and comfortable daily driver. I wanted a Bronco for off-road duties, but I didn't really want to put up with a Bronco every day. And I wanted a Range Rover in terms of comfort and smoothness, but I wanted more capability than that. And this combined all that into one car. It seemed totally perfect for me from the beginning. And indeed, that is exactly how I used this car. I took it off-roading quite a lot. There are all sorts of images, you can see some now, of me off-roading the new Defender and really using its capabilities, which are surprisingly significant. This can do a lot more than you might think it can do. You heard the old Defender people saying, "Now the new one isn't a real Defender." Well, my new Defender can run circles around my old Defender off-road. It really is an impressive vehicle, and I really used it that way a lot. And I drove it on the pavement a lot too, and I used its comfortability as well. I drove this car across the country 6 times, from California to Massachusetts, sits 6 different trips across the country, all the way across in the new Defender. So a lot of road miles and a lot of fun off the pavement as well. The problem, though, was evident from pretty early on, and that was the lack of great driver assist technologies with the new Defender. This vehicle has adaptive cruise control. It'll slow up and speed down based on the car in front of you, but I find it to be relatively jerky and not as smooth as some other systems from other car companies. This also does not have automatic steering. It has lane keep assist, so if you start to drift out of your lane, it'll push you back in, but that's not the same as auto steering that'll steer for you as you go around like a big highway curve. Now, a lot of people watching this are going to say, what do you need the car to drive for you? But the problem is that I do so many highway miles in my cars every year, and I do a lot of bumper-to-bumper Southern California traffic driving, so driver assist tech is pretty important to me in a daily driver car. This was outdated from the moment I bought it. It was already a bit behind where some rivals were, but then it only started to feel more and more outdated as I started to drive more cars for my job, and I started to see all these great driver assist features that were coming in new cars, and this didn't have any of them. And each time I drove one of those, I got a little bit more disappointed in my new Defender. As a result, I decided to start the search for a daily driver, everyday use car that had better driver assist tech than the Defender, and that's how I ended up with my Mercedes E450 all-terrain station wagon that I announced as my new daily driver car a few months ago on my channel. But my plan at that time was to still keep this Defender. My wife's crossover is getting old, so I was going to give her the Defender, and I would drive the station wagon, and then every summer when I drive across the country, I figured I would be able to bring the Defender, use its capabilities, its size, its off-roading when I arrive at my destination, and I would still take it to the 100,000 miles that I had planned. That was my goal, and in fact, that was my goal as of 90 days ago. It's the plan that I had announced when I showed off my new E450 all-terrain and I told you what was going to happen to my Defender. My wife would use it and I would still drive it across the country. But then this happened. Yes, those are giant scrapes on the side of my beloved Defender that I ordered. It was all mine. They were caused by a very apologetic wife who had insisted to me that my new Defender was too big for her. Her car is smaller. I wanted to give her this. She said, it's too big, it's too big. I said, you'll get used to it. It's fine. It's no problem. You'll get used to it. And then on the first day of her driving the new Defender, she crashed into a pole at a gas station. Well, she lightly scraped a pole. It wasn't really all that bad, but that's where the problem started. You see, Land Rover has an enormous amount of demand right now for all of their vehicles. Range Rover Sport, new Defender, all of them. And parts are tremendously hard to come by. I took my new Defender to a trusted body shop and they couldn't find a passenger door. I waited more than 2 months in order to get one, and even then, we only found one across the country at another Land Rover dealership that decided they didn't need it because the Defender they had been working on was totaled out. We never found one from Land Rover Corporate, and my dealership told me that Land Rover has been buying back a lot of Defenders, Range Rover Sports, because they can't provide the parts. They're too valuable on the assembly line to take them off and send them to people like me who have damaged their cars. And so they're buying back these vehicles until they can find the parts to replace them. And that, to me, was not great news. That little pole scrape at the gas station only cost a few $1,000s to fix. It wasn't that big a deal, but it took more than 3 months. And we got lucky that we found a door at all and that my car wasn't bought back like so many other ones. Once that happened, it really changed the calculus of everything with the new Defender for me, because I started thinking, do I really want to give a car that doesn't have body panels available to my wife who crashed it the first day she was driving it? It didn't really seem like a great plan. Of course, we could keep her car around as like a backup and then she could use this, but that just seems ridiculous. I have 9 cars. I'm trying to simplify my life. She doesn't want it. She says it's too big. There's no place for it. It's time to go. And in fact, I was even thinking about me continuing to use it, but I'm not really sure how confident I feel in it either. I've been driving this cross-country, long trips, going off-roading through the mud, but now that I know body panels are hard to find and fix, do I really want to take risks with it? I feel like I'm not really going to be able to enjoy it like I did back when I thought it was, well, repairable. And so I made the decision to sell my new Defender on Cars and Bids with no reserve. Now, in a sense, I am sad to see this go. Like I've mentioned, I ordered this from the factory and I did it in a very unusual way. I basically maximized all the utilitarian off-road capabilities and I didn't really get any of the frilly luxury stuff. And I think that makes this a pretty cool and special build. For example, I ordered the off-road pack, which came with an electronic active differential, off-road tires, as you can see, and a power plug socket in the cargo area, which came in useful a zillion times. I also ordered it with the advanced off-road pack. That came with off-road cruise control, which was great, and Land Rover's terrain response system, the most updated version of that. And I ordered this with the cold climate package, which meant it also got a heated steering wheel and a heated windshield, among a few other heated items. I felt that made it even tougher regardless of the conditions. One other really cool off-roady utilitarian feature I got with this car is a built-in air compressor. You can see it back here in the cargo area. This was a dealer-installed accessory that you could choose if you wanted to, and I did. And I had the dealer install this before I took delivery of the car. If you go off-roading a lot, you know you're constantly airing up and airing down your tires, and so rather than try to bring an air compressor with me and figure all that out, having one installed in the car is great. And it comes with this hose that's inside this Land Rover bag. You just stick up the hose to the air compressor, run it to the tire, and then you can fill up or air down your tires using this compressor. Fantastic feature to have. I used it all the time. Aside from those things, I didn't really order all that much other stuff. In fact, I'm one of the very few people who ordered this car with a middle jump seat in the front. So this has 3 seats in the front and 3 seats in the back. Instead of the center console, which came with like a nice stereo system, I got the jump seat and I actually used it a lot. An enormous number of people sat up there. My dog sat up there all the time and I loved that feature. And every time I see a new Defender parked somewhere, I go in, peer inside to see if it has the jump seat, and it never does. But mine did. It felt more utilitarian. I also didn't get full leather seats. These are partial leather, partial cloth. It felt more keeping with the Defender ethos. Now, with that said, I did get a few luxury comfort options. I didn't want to go pure utilitarian, so I added adaptive cruise control. Like I mentioned, that was important to me, put it on. I added a panoramic sunroof, which was also important to me to have. It broke all the time. I'll get to that in a little bit, but I had it and of course still do. I also added heated and cooled seats, which was a nice feature to have. And my very favorite additional luxury was the rear view mirror camera. Instead of just having a normal boring mirror, you could flip the switch and it would turn into a camera, which was so cool. And that was especially important for that center jump seat because when it's in place, it takes up basically all your visibility. But if your rear view mirror is a camera, that's no problem. You can still see everything and use that center jump seat. As for colors, by now it is pretty well known among people who follow my channel or in my sphere at all that I always buy my cars in the press color, the color from the press photos, the original advertisements, all that. And for the new Defender, that was Pangea Green, which is the color I got. And I also spent extra to get the white contrasting roof, which was an option they didn't offer for very long. I think they're offering it again, but it was gone for a while. But I got green with white, which was the press car spec. It was important to me to do that. Regarding the wheels, that was a big topic of consternation among both me and the viewers when I first announced this car because they offered steel wheels with the new Land Rover Defender and that would more fit my utilitarian build, but I didn't get them. The reason for that is they only offered steel wheels on the 4-cylinder models. The steel wheels were too small to fit over the larger brakes that were put on the 6-cylinders, and so you couldn't get the steelies with the 6-cylinder. I've driven 4-cylinder and 6-cylinder new Defenders, and let's just say I don't even find the 6-cylinder to be all that fast. The 4-cylinder is pretty slow, and I wasn't going to lose 100 horsepower and get a much slower car just to flex my steel wheels, so I decided not to do it. Instead, I got these wheels, which At the risk of offending some people who might be watching this video, I think these are the only attractive wheels on the new Defender, and frankly, I don't even think they're all that attractive. I don't think there's a lot of great wheel options on the new Defender except for the Steelies, but I got the 6-cylinder, so I couldn't go that route. I will say the 22-inch wheels, the bigger wheels that were optional on these and standard on the V8 models, they look good, but they're not exactly off-roady. It didn't really fit with the purpose I was going for with my Defender, so I didn't get those either. So now that I've told you why I'm selling my new Defender, and I've explained the equipment that's on my new Defender, let me talk through the flaws of this vehicle, starting with the most glaringly obvious, the windshield. You can see there is a giant crack in the windshield going right across the driver's field of view. Everyone who has seen this car has said to me, "You're selling it with the windshield crack like that? Why? Why not just replace it?" Well, I'll tell you why. In addition to that crack going along the windshield, there is also this rot chip in the windshield, and this rot chip in the windshield, and this rot chip in the windshield, and this rot chip in the windshield. And by the way, this is already my second windshield. One problem that these vehicles with blocky designs have, Jeeps, Hummers, G-Wagons, because the windshields are so upright, they tend to collect debris and they get cracked. And I decided if I replace the windshield before I sold this car, I just know that on my way home, it's gonna get cracked again. And so when you buy it, please replace the windshield and expect to have more windshield cracks again. Aside from that, this vehicle doesn't really have that many flaws, except for the fact that I've used it like a normal car. I spend my entire life being very careful with other people's special cars. And so for my own daily driver, I kind of make a point to not quite be as careful. And so you'll find a dent here, maybe a scratch there, some scuffs on the rear bumper, some scuffs in the interior in the cargo area, packing stuff inside. This car was used like the family hauler, off-roader, dog cross-country transporter that it is. And I certainly don't pretend that it is in perfect condition. It is a wonderfully loved car. Now, one area that is not a flaw in this car is the door that my wife scraped that pole in the gas station. This entire side of the car was repainted, and they did a truly fantastic job. I have seen some shoddy body shop work before. That is not this. This whole thing was redone by West Coast Specialties, which is a body shop here in San Diego. I don't know anything about body shops. They don't even know who I am, but I wanted to mention it because they did such a good job. You would never know that this car has been painted over on this side, and it has a clean Carfax report. So you can tell people that it's never been crashed, but it has by my wife. All right, driving my new Defender, which isn't so new anymore. It's hilarious to be driving this for a video because this was like my normal car for so long. And I'm not really gonna get into the ins and outs of the driving experience because I already reviewed the new Defender when it went on sale, and then I drove my own new Defender when I first bought it, and I went through the driving experience of that. You already have all that. I'll link those in the description. Instead, what I want to talk about is my ownership experience so far with this car, how it has been. In case you're curious, I've got 43,000 miles in 2.5 years. I drove this a lot. And so, how was it? The answer is, surprisingly in my mind, it was excellent. The car did great for 43,000 miles. It wasn't flawless. The sunroof was the issue. I bought this car, I like big sunroofs. I ordered the panoramic sunroof, and almost immediately it broke. It wouldn't open or close. Fortunately, it broke closed. And so I brought it into the dealer, they fixed it, but then it broke again, and then they didn't have the part for like 6 months or a year to fix it. They finally just got it fixed a couple of months ago, and it works every time now, but I don't really trust it. I'm like a little nervous, so I don't use it like I want to. Otherwise, this car has been great. Never broke down. It gave me one check engine light once, which was some technical service bulletin they just fixed. And that was it. 43,000 miles, truly no problem. And I drove this car pretty hard. I took it to some very cold, icy beaches in the middle of the winter doing off-roading. I took it hot out into the desert to do off-roading out there to Palm Springs several times in very hot temperatures. And I did some long days on the road in this car, 18-hour driving days. I drove this car in one day last summer from Indianapolis to Albuquerque, which is 1,300 miles in one day. And this car did it like a champ with my little dog dog Noodle right next to me. This car has been a killer. It's been totally dependable, totally reliable, and great to own. I also am definitely going to miss a few things about it. I love the high seating position, which is great. It's why a lot of people buy SUVs. Frankly, in my mind, crossovers don't quite offer it. This vehicle is tall. You kind of feel like the king of the road. I always liked the technology, believe it or not. It's a relatively small screen, and Land Rover's system isn't the best, but it does exactly what I need. It's got a nice 360 camera. It's got multi-panel screen on the home screen, so you can do multiple things at once, which I complain about some cars not having. Truthfully, there's a lot of nice benefits to this car, and I really, surprisingly, haven't had any issues or drawbacks to speak of in my ownership experience until the incident with the door, and I realized maybe parts would be an issue going forward. Truthfully, it never made any weird sounds. It never behaved in any odd manner. There was never anything strange that happened or that disappointed me during my ownership experience. And that's, any car to go 43,000 miles and especially in some pretty harsh conditions and have that be the case, that's pretty good. But it's especially unusual for a Land Rover that is a first model year car in a brand new factory. I kind of thought I'd be getting into some maybe potentially questionable stuff, but that's not what happened at all. And you buy a Toyota, you expect it to be reliable, but you trade some character and some enjoyment for that reliability. This car had pretty strong reliability, but without really that trade-off. I still trust this car completely. I frankly was planning on doing several more cross-country drives in it until the gas station scrape occurred. And I would tomorrow drive this car across country, and indeed I have many times, including most recently only 6 months ago. So overall, a good ownership experience in my new Defender, a nice car. I have slingshotted back and forth between owning a Land Rover as a daily driver and owning a Mercedes station wagon, and I've had a 07 Mercedes wagon, an 06 Range Rover, a 12 Mercedes wagon, a 20 Land Rover, and then now a 22 Mercedes wagon. And so I'm on Mercedes wagon right now, but in theory, I'll probably end up with a Land Rover next. And this was a great car for the period I have it, 2.5 years, 43,000 miles. I just wish it wasn't too big for my wife. And so that's my 2020 Land Rover Defender. I ordered this car new. It only exists because of me, and that's cool and pretty special, but for a multitude of reasons, it's time to move on. And I love the replacement car I got, my Mercedes E450 all-terrain station wagon. It's almost as fast as an F40. Anyway, the Defender is going away, and it can be yours on Cars and Bids. So click the link in the description below to head over to the auction. Bye, Defender.